leave you with a look back at the highlights of a remarkable decade that has changed Australia forever.
The 2020s began in extraordinary fashion.
Work more regionally.
More work, more opportunity.
Solar and batteries would be ideal.
I'll build a sustainable society.
Today marked the first time that Australia has run on 90% renewable energy for an entire month.
That makes me feel really, really happy.
The government today announced it will follow the lead of other countries and live stream key policy discussions.
I think it's good. We need transparency.
Australians are now seeking out Australian made and owned products. The ripple effect is that we are now seeing healthy farmers.
There's nothing like endangered animals in a landscape that's coming back to life to give all Australians a real heartbeat.
We can deal better with the world when we're connected to nature.
It's been amazing to see the change that's happened from the closure of the power stations to the renewable energy zones. The young people are starting to stay and find work.
This family right now are earning cash because their electricity service provider are paying them to use the battery in this ute as storage for the grid.
In a decade full of transition and tragedy, many Australians are finding renewed purpose in the regeneration of our social and ecosystems. Australians are starting to feel more secure.
This is a landmark day for our country.
A day like this means that all of this work has actually meant something.
Respect is back and our pride is back. Respecting the environment. From that gives us the strength to look to a brighter future.
If not me, who? If not now, when do we do it? It's never too late to stand up and take action together.
As well. Regenerating Australia asks the question, what would Australia look like by 2030 if we simply listen to the needs of its people? It's a new story for our nation, a story of empowerment, of solutions, as the title suggests, regeneration. It needs to be told. And the man who's doing a great job of telling these sort of stories is Damon Gamեau. Mate, thank you so much for joining us here on Screen Watching.
No worries, Simon. Thanks for having me.
Put what you're doing with Regenerating Australia into your own words. What does this mean to you?
Well, it feels particularly relevant in this moment as we're discussing. I've just got back from the Northern Rivers. I live up there, just sort of not far from Lismore, and have had friends be airlifted off their houses and other friends that have lost everything in Mullum. And, a lot of them went through this only 5 years ago, and then we had a fire in between. So it just speaks to the new reality that we're actually existing in, and that we have to take things like climate seriously. And so this film really, I guess, is showing what it would take, what the solutions we could enact in the next 8 years to legitimately give ourselves a chance of getting through this and pulling it off. And I think we often only talk about how bad things are, and we hear all the negative news reports, but there's so much we can do, and those solutions have such multiple benefits for communities and people's well-being and livelihoods and all sorts of things, that really that's the motivation of this film. It was an interview process with a huge diverse range of Australians over 4 months, and asked them what kind of country they want to live in after COVID and after the fires. And all of them talked about stronger communities, more energy independence, a stronger say in their own communities. They were disillusioned with politics. They wanted things to be done better, get money out of it. And so this is what it would look like if we actually enacted all those things. This is the country that we would live in by 2030. And these are all the benefits that would come with that. So I just wanted people to feel that it was possible, to get an emotional response to maybe inhabiting that world, even for a short amount of time, to get them to feel what it would be like. And then hopefully that can motivate people into taking action and getting involved, which is obviously a much bigger part of the campaign, not just the film, but really tangible pathways for people to take action. There's a huge fund, $2 million fund for people to apply for solutions in their own community, just so they don't have to feel angry and cynical anymore. I mean, they can, but they can also channel some of that into meaningful action.
Man, I'm so sorry to hear about your properties and the friends up north there. I've got some as well. I know they're doing it really tough. So all the best to you and all your mates up there. You mentioned there, you pointed out there a key difference with this film for me. It doesn't show how dire our future is if we don't act, but how wonderful it will be if we do. And I think there's a real sort of buoyancy, a real sense of hope about this film, which you don't often see in these, you know, Armageddon type of where we're headed docos. That was obviously a very clear intention.
Yeah, man. I mean, like all of us, gosh, I mean, there's so much to deal with in the world right now. You just turn on the news and it's no wonder that people are just disengaging and, you know, watching more Netflix and getting another bottle of wine. I mean, of course, we all feel like that. It's too much to deal with. So I guess the last thing anyone wants to do is sit through a, you know, horrific climate story about the future of our country, and let alone a feature. So this is an experiment, I guess, to say, right, what if it was just a shorter, punchier, more uplifting, optimistic film that corporations can use, governments can use, school teachers can use, to cut through all that dystopian narrative and sort of say, no, it doesn't have to be like that. We know there's a lot to do and we know it's urgent, but we've got to boost up these narratives of what we can do and get people excited about this opportunity that we have, especially in our country. It's insane how much solar and wind we have, more than any other country, or as much as any other country. We can just get way out of ahead and really bring so much wealth to our communities again and vitality. We could be making sort of, you know, panels and batteries and turbines for the rest of the world, let alone our neighbors in Asia and Indonesia. There's huge economic advantages right here waiting for us. So I guess it's about telling that story instead of stories of sacrifice and the things that people have to give up, because it's just not true. There are things that we can actually make our lives much better in this country.
We should make the point here that this is a short film that looks only 10 years into the future. This isn't science fiction stuff. I don't suppose you've got a whole lot of sci-fi writers around to conjure up these seaweed gardens and windmills off the oceans and all that sort of stuff. This is all technology that's happening now, or capable.
It's happening, you know, it's happening in most other countries in the world, you know, where we don't have an offshore wind farm yet, but they're one of the fastest developed, you know, forms of energy around the world. Even that cable, we show a cable of an electric vehicle that plugs into the house, and the grid can use the battery for energy, so the householders get paid for the storage in their car battery. That's happening already in parts of the world, and we have those charges right here in Australia now. It's just that people don't know about them. So, you know, we were very careful with how we scripted this and made sure it didn't feel too far away or not tangible enough. That's the frustrating thing for me, is that we have everything in this moment to change our pathway and to pull this off and do it differently. We're just lacking that political will and the awareness, I'd say, amongst the community to force the pressure on our politicians to make the change. So that's, again, I think where storytellers and filmmakers have a really important responsibility in this moment to shift the culture, to raise awareness, to get people to understand what's going on and try and motivate them to take action.
Okay, so that what you said there points to my next question. I am going to play devil's advocate here a little bit. I guess you'll face these questions along the way. Is it fanciful in its people-driven approach to change? How does it address that all the protests and community gardens and solar farms won't change the nature of cold, hard capitalism?
Well, I guess this is what this film is saying, is that there are other, until we transition to a better system, there are other capitalistic kind of ideas around these clean energy solutions, soil carbon credits for farmers, biodiversity credits, that we should enact straight away. We can have the bigger discussion about what our system looks like, you know, beyond 2030, because I think that is a very real system chat. We need to have that. But in terms of the hemorrhaging of climate, which we're seeing in our country right now, there are really quick things that we can do right now that will bring huge amounts of money into communities, will create huge savings for households on their energy bills and whatnot, and make the whole grid more efficient. So it's just people that understand this, and a lot of people have been looking at this for 10 or 15 years. That's why they've been pulling their hair out, is because it's not even a controversial topic anymore for the scientists or the people that have been doing these modelings. It's just crazy that we're not investing in this. I mean, we subsidise the fossil fuel industry $10 billion every year in this country, $10 billion. And for just 2 of those years, $20 billion, over the next 10 years, we could subsidise the transition to electric homes, you know, and having heat pumps and having panels on our roofs. So, you know, this is not a big ask. It's just that as we know, we've got embedded structures and incumbent policies that protect the status quo, and they're always going to take a long time to change. And let's be fair, Australia's made a huge amount of money off fossil fuels and coal and continues to do so. And there are jobs that we need to transition. They're all real conversations, but I guess at what cost? Because we know we can transition those people, but we just can't keep having more floods and more fires, because the damage that's inflicting on people's lives and the cost to clean it up far outweighs the cost of transitioning. And I think we're getting to that point now, that tipping point, that we can see You know, Lismore, far out. What's going to happen to that town? You know, people did that cleanup 5 years ago, and here they are. You see the pictures of all their stuff on the streets. It's a massive operation cost to clean all that up. So, you know, we've just got to be smarter about where we're spending our money. And I think we need to spend it on the transition and lowering emissions instead of, you know, mitigating against the damage.
That sugar film, 2040, now regenerating Australia. Where does the crusader in you come from? What drives you to keep making these kind of advocacy docs?
Well, I'm a dad, you know, that's the first and foremost, is that I'm shit scared about the future for my kids, you know, and if we all should be, if we really understood what's going on, and especially living up where I did and seeing the storms there and seeing them react to that and their friends and what they're going through. And this is now, you know, and I've got a 2-year-old and an 8-year-old. So what it's going to be like in 30 years, 40 years, you know? So I just, you know, I wish more people would understand the urgency there. And I don't want to frighten people, you know, because I think there's a lot of that out there, but I think there is opportunity and there's a better world for us. This is a feedback from our system that's saying things aren't serving us. How about we change our ways? And it's the same when you go to the doctor. You go to the doctor because you get feedback from your body that's saying you're not doing something right. So you go and change. That's what we're getting from the planetary system, and we're ignoring it, you know? So I guess it's just that I love storytelling. I love film. I think storytelling is probably one of the most potent tools we have for shifting culture and shaping, you know, norms and behaviors. And we've just been using it incorrectly for a long time. And we've used advertising, we've hooked people into this system to tell a certain narrative, but I think our storytellers can actually find a way through this. And I just hope more and more people understand, especially ones that tell stories or write music or write books, whatever it might be. We're all storytellers in our own capacity, to think about what stories we are telling, because we urgently need those storytellers now.
I'm Generation X. We knew it was happening, but we didn't act hard enough. And you're younger than me, and you're all fired up. But I guess major socio-political change hasn't happened just yet. Who will be the heroic generation? Who has to be the heroic generation?
Well, I think it's dangerous if we leave it to the younger kids. I mean, and they're incredible, to be honest. You know, some of the kids I've met around the world in the last few years, just their eloquence and their passion and how articulate they are on this topic. You know, look out when they get some power, and it's extraordinary. But we can't leave it to them. You know, I'm young enough still to you know, to help, to usher in these solutions, to start raising awareness. I mean, that's the reality we face right now, is that we're all responsible. And we've really had that driven home in the floods in the last few days, is that because it's happened so widespread, there's been no help. There's been no government assistance. There's been very little people on the ground, no military. It's been the community that have been cooking food, grabbing dinghies and surfboards and going out and rescuing animals. Like, extraordinary what our community has done, because it is up to us, you know, and that's the reality. We can't just sit and rely on governments to do this. They'll need to help in some capacity, but all of us probably need to get better equipped at our resilience skills and learning how we can connect with each other in meaningful ways. Because we're going to have a rocky few decades ahead. You know, even if we started turning things around right now, we've left it too late. We're going to get more floods. They're going to get more intense. We're going to get more fires. So we better start really thinking about how we're going to coordinate with each other properly, so it doesn't all completely fall apart. And these are the little mini lessons we get, certainly in my community, to experience a town with no internet reception, no phone coverage, running out of petrol, empty supermarket shelves. I mean, it's the reality is as confronting as it gets, you know, and then you really get to see what humans are made of. And thankfully, in my community, just extraordinary people stepping up and helping each other, and strangers and hotel owners giving their accommodation to people that don't have homes. I mean, we should be so proud of that in Australia, that we're capable of that kind of spirit. But yeah, we're going to need to all develop it, no matter where we live in this country.
Regenerating Australia will premiere in Sydney tonight, Friday, March 4, at the University of New South Wales Roundhouse, not at the Sunset Cinema in North Sydney. Climate change again, it came pouring down. And then on Sunday at the Meat Market in North Melbourne, and then you headed around the country to talk it up even further?
Yeah, so we're doing a lap of the country right up to the middle of May, and working with a lot of groups and just encouraging people to come along. And it's not just a film screening, it's a discussion. We've got live music acts for people that haven't played for a couple of years in front of people. We've got First Nations speakers. We're showing another short film. We're just trying to make it a night of celebration and community again, to get together, expert panels, guests, and just to have a discussion about where we're at and where we're going as a country, and really encouraging people to come out, bring your kids. It's free for under 18s, and come along and join what I would say is one of the most important conversations we could have in this moment.
Totally agree, mate. All the links and websites are in the show notes below. Damon Gameau, thank you so much for being part of the show, and all the very best with both, you know, your family and friends up north and your properties and with this amazing project.
Thanks, Simon. Appreciate the support.
Okay, mate. Bye-bye.
Cool, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Damon. Great answers. Thank you so much. Good luck with it all. 100% on board. I'll spread it around as much as I can.
You're a legend. Take care.